As the sport prepares for the dramatic arrival of the 2026 engine regulations, a fierce battle has erupted behind closed doors. Mercedes insists they're on the back foot, but their rivals tell a very different story. According to them, the German giant has uncovered something clever, something powerful, and possibly something unfair. What began as a technical discussion has now turned into a full-scale political war, accusations flying, secret meetings taking place, and whispers of a boycott before the first race has even begun. The atmosphere is tense. The new season hasn't started, but the fight already has. At the heart of the controversy lies a single technical detail, the engine's compression ratio. In simple terms, it's how tightly the engine squeezes the air and fuel mixture before ignition. The tighter the squeeze, the bigger the explosion, and usually the more power you get. For 2026, the FIA set a strict limit, 16-1. It was a compromise, a deal designed to attract new manufacturers like Audi and Ford into the sport. Everyone agreed, but here's the catch. The regulation only states that the measurement must be taken when the engine is cold, sitting quietly in the garage. There is no mention of what happens once the engine is hot and racing at full speed on track. And that, insiders say, is where Mercedes may have found its advantage. The belief in the paddock is that Mercedes' engine comfortably passes inspection in the garage, but once it reaches operating temperature on track, the compression ratio reportedly climbs to 18-1. If true, that increase could translate into 2 or even 0.3 of a second per lap, an enormous margin in Formula One. It doesn't sound like much, but in this sport, it's everything. The reaction from the other teams has been swift. Ferrari, Honda, Audi, and even Red Bull, traditional rivals, have formed a rare alliance. Together, they are pressuring the FIA to introduce new testing procedures that would measure engines under racing conditions, not just in the cool air of the garage. Tensions have escalated. Meetings have grown heated. A final decision now looms at an upcoming F1 Commission meeting, scheduled just days before the March 1st deadline, when engine designs must be locked in. For many teams, the issue isn't just legality, it's fairness. Even if Mercedes hasn't technically broken the written rule, everyone agreed to the spirit of 16-1, and bending that spirit feels like crossing a line. While the paddock argues behind closed doors, Mercedes has been playing a different game in public. Instead of defending their engine, they've redirected attention elsewhere, toward Red Bull. After early testing, George Russell described Mercedes' performance as a reality check. He called Red Bull the team to beat. He even suggested Red Bull held a terrifying half-second to 1-second advantage per lap. It's a classic move. Shift the spotlight, lower expectations, let others carry the pressure. By praising Red Bull, Mercedes paints itself as the underdog, chasing rather than leading. But in Formula One, perception is often part of the strategy. Red Bull isn't buying it. Their technical director, Pierre Wache, dismissed the claims calmly but pointedly. He said, "I don't agree with that. Maybe it's a game that some competitors are playing." Mind games, psychological warfare, before the lights have even gone out. Ferrari's Charles Leclerc has also hinted that Mercedes may be hiding their true pace. He noted that the 2026 regulations give teams more opportunities than ever to disguise performance during testing. In other words, don't believe everything you see. And then came the most dramatic twist. Reports suggest Mercedes has warned that if the FIA changes the rules to close the loophole, they could refuse to race at the season opener in Australia. Such a move wouldn't just sideline Mercedes, it would also affect their customer teams, Williams, Aston Martin, and McLaren. A season-opening Grand Prix missing 4 teams would be a public relations disaster for a sport that is more popular than ever. The threat alone reveals how high the stakes have become. behind the scenes, the politics grow even darker. Journalist Ralph Bach reports that Toto Wolff's public claim that the advantage amounts to just 2 or 3 horsepower is viewed internally as laughable. According to insiders, the real gain could be significantly larger. Wolff, however, has fired back. He accuses rival teams of sending private letters to the FIA and holding secret meetings to change the regulations at the last moment. In his view, they're not protecting fairness, they're protecting themselves, afraid of being outpaced. Trust between the top teams has all but collapsed. Each side accuses the other of manipulation. The FIA now stands in the middle under immense pressure to make a decision that won't tear the grid apart. Ferrari has taken a slightly softer approach. While opposing Mercedes' interpretation, they've stated they won't file an official protest at the first race. Instead, they want clarity. They've even developed a proposed testing tool to measure engines at operating temperature and offered it to the FIA, but even Ferrari admits the solution may not be perfect. Teams could still find ways to cool engines before inspection. All eyes now turn to the upcoming F1 Commission meeting, the most important moment in this entire saga. Behind closed doors, the future of the 2026 season will be decided. To change the regulations, a supermajority vote is required. 4 of the 5 engine manufacturers must agree, along with the FIA and Formula One's commercial rights holder. It's a high bar. And now that Red Bull has aligned itself with Ferrari, Honda, and Audi, Mercedes suddenly finds itself isolated. If the vote goes against them, Mercedes will be forced to redesign critical elements of its engine just weeks before the season begins, a nightmare scenario in a sport where timing is everything. But if the vote goes in their favor, the backlash could be explosive. Rival teams may respond with protests, legal challenges, and a cloud of controversy hanging over the opening race. The FIA stands in the middle of a storm, tasked with keeping peace in a paddock that no longer trusts itself. In the days leading up to the meeting, quiet negotiations will intensify. Deals will be discussed, alliances will be tested. Every team is fighting not just for fairness, but for advantage. The 2026 championship battle has already begun, not on the circuit, but in boardrooms. And then came a moment that shifted the narrative. On the final day of testing, after 2 days of downplaying their pace and praising Red Bull, Mercedes suddenly unleashed raw speed. A dominant 1-2 finish sent a clear message through the paddock. Their earlier claims of struggling now looked almost theatrical. It was a textbook case of sandbagging, hiding performance until the very last moment. That performance, combined with the engine rumors, has convinced many insiders that Mercedes may already be the team to beat, regardless of what they say publicly. Max Verstappen's role adds another layer of intrigue. The reigning world champion has criticized aspects of the 2026 cars, but he has also openly suggested that Mercedes is using diversion tactics, shifting attention away from themselves. What makes his comments even more fascinating is history. Last year, Verstappen held discussions with Mercedes about a potential future move. If those conversations went deep, he may have learned more than most about Mercedes' long-term plans. That inside knowledge could explain why he doesn't believe the narrative of Mercedes playing catch-up. He knows what they are capable of. Still, the picture isn't entirely clear. The performance of Mercedes-powered customer teams offers mixed signals. Williams completed an impressive and reliable test program, logging heavy mileage without major issues. McLaren showed flashes of speed, but also struggled with inconsistency and reliability concerns. If Mercedes truly possessed an overwhelming engine advantage, you might expect every team using it to dominate the timing sheets. The fact that they don't suggests the reality is more complex. Perhaps the alleged advantage only works perfectly when integrated with Mercedes' own chassis philosophy. Or perhaps other teams are hiding their pace too, waiting for the first race to reveal their true performance. In Formula One, nothing is ever straightforward. This entire episode is a reminder of what makes the sport so compelling. It's not just about engineering brilliance or driving talent. It's about politics, power, influence, and the relentless pursuit of victory. Teams push the rulebook to its absolute limits. The FIA tries to contain the chaos, and the drivers are caught in the middle, preparing for battle while navigating the noise. The coming weeks will determine everything. The F1 Commission meeting will be a showdown, Mercedes versus the rest. The decision made there could define the balance of power for years to come. Will Mercedes keep its potential advantage, or will the FIA step in and rewrite the playing field? Will the season opener be overshadowed by protests and legal disputes, or will a fragile compromise hold the grid together? One thing is certain, in Formula One, the drama never stays confined to the track. The March 1st deadline for engine homologation adds enormous pressure. Once that date passes, core engine designs will be frozen for several years.